This is part one of a three-part video series in which I will demonstrate how to use the Telit Industrial Internet of Things platform to pull data from a device and display this data on a human-readable dashboard hosted on Telit's online portal. Our setup here includes a universal robot and the Telit Gateway, which in our case happens to be a Lenovo PC running Windows 10 with DeviceWISE installed. This video will focus purely on configuring the gateway to pull the data that we want from the UR3E. To keep it simple, the data that we're going to pull from the UR will simply be joint currents and a general purpose register. This process will apply to any data that you'd like to pull from the UR. Behind the scenes, I've already configured the UR and the Telit Gateway's local area connection to be on the same subnet. So we should easily be able to step into configuring the gateway. This is our UR here. This is the UR's IP address for our configuration options. And this is DeviceWISE. This is the software that we use to configure our Telit Gateway. And you can see that DeviceWISE has already recognized and found our gateway. There are a variety of different ways that you can configure devices on the Telit Gateway. We're going to focus on Modbus TCP/IP in this case, and that is because the UR has a Modbus TCP/IP server that we can read a variety of different data. And you can find that data on UR's website. They have a whole register address list here. The data that we're going to be focusing on is a joint current, which is right here, starting at holding register 290 for the base, and then all the way through RIS3 to 295, and we will also read a general purpose register. In our case, we're going to stick with register 128. In order to configure the gateway, we need to first select devices here in the dropdown. We're going to add a new device. We're going to just call it UR3E, and the type we're going to select from our dropdown here is Modbus device. And of course, that IP address that I mentioned earlier that we need to remember is our robot's IP address, 192.168.451. The Modbus client accessing the UR's Modbus server needs a different slave address than 0, so we'll just set it to 1. We're going to use advanced parameters here, and we're going to set up our start address at 0. And our holding registers, we're going to read 770. And the reason that we are choosing 770 is because if we start here at the top at address 0 all the way down to 770, that will give us access to all of these registers here. This is all we need for our configuration. We can just simply hit save, and the Modbus device has been added, and we can go ahead and hit start. And if we did everything right, we should see started. If we had any communication issues, we would see this is disabled, and under status, we would see our last error here. Now that we've added a new device and we've started it, we should be able to see it in the variables tab here, which it is. And we're going to go ahead and select that dropdown, and we see holding registers here. We have 770 at the dropdown here, and here are all of the registers. I'm just going to read, in this case, register 128 here, that general purpose register. I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I'm going to watch as an unsigned integer 2. Okay, so we see a current value of 87, and if we open from the robot, access its internal Modbus server. Value of 87 is currently being written to general purpose register 128. I can change that value, 55, and you'll see that value is updated in our watch window here from the Telit device. So that verifies that we have communication, and that concludes part one of the three-part video series.